Good day, good afternoon, good night. How you doing? This is MCM and you're listening to You're Probably Right. Today we are going to have a serious conversation. Well, maybe not a serious conversation, but there's going to be a serious talk happening here. Now, of course, I'm only doing the talking, but just stay tuned. Hey, what's up? Here we go. It is another edition of You're Probably Right. I am your podcast host, the yours truly, the one and only MCM. How you doing, guys? Listen, this is You're Probably Right, and you are welcome at my house anytime. Toronto is one of the most multicultural urban areas in the world, and guess what? That's where I'm calling you from. That's where I'm hailing from. That's where I am broadcasting from. I'm just mumbling all this stuff because I've decided to, once again, change my method of recording. Hopefully this one sounds cool, and if it does, you can always hit me at yprpodcast@gmail.com, and you can let me know how it sounds. Hopefully it sounds cool, or you can just drop a line on Anchor, and you can let me know what's up. Let's see. I wanted to do a dumb question of the day. Now, these may not necessarily really be dumb questions for some people, but anyhow, I just thought this one was kind of cool. Listen to this. Why do banks charge a fee on insufficient funds when they know that there's not enough money in the account in the first place? Probably because they're thieves. Anyhow, I wanted to have a little conversation with you today, or better, I guess, talk at you, considering I'm the only person who's talking in this whole podcast. I recently spoke to my listeners, and shout out to all my listeners in Ontario, Canada, of course, and all around the world, of course. I recently spoke to all of you about trying to find different jobs, and I had been, for lack of a better term, ousted from my position that I had last year in my work, and I was noticeably ticked off if you go back and listen to the podcast. But in all of this, which I can tell you that it 100% turned out amazing for me, I wasn't happy in the way in which I was moved from my position, because I believe that the company I was working for figured out a loophole in that they figured out a way to bypass their supposed seniority list. And if you know how a seniority list goes, basically, if you're in a union and you have a seniority list, even in a job, even the company probably, they might have it without a union, where if I was hired in 05 and you were hired in 06, unless there was some kind of malfeasance on my part or some kind of misconduct, when it came to being booted from a location, you would be the first to go because I had more seniority. Well, a loophole that companies have figured out how to bypass this is to say you have 3 positions. One is distinctly for this reason, the other is for that reason, and the other one is for another reason. And what you can do is, if you split those 3 positions and maybe divide them into 12 positions, or better yet, 24 positions, then what you can do is you can give people supposed specific tasks that they are responsible for, or they might have the education for, and then therefore everybody is not so interchangeable, and you can say, let's just say you have some, I'll just call them young whippersnappers who are, and I'm sure a lot of people are going through this, so you can know what I'm talking about, but you'll have a lot of young people who will be very tech savvy, very app oriented, very joint to the new algorithms of the day. And basically, if you have a company, yes, you do want the older heads in your company still maybe giving their wisdom, but you may not want them in a position to pull the trigger on a lot of things because they don't understand the technology. For instance, I was at a hospital today, and me and my sister were in there for treatment, and basically we were there. I keep saying basically, I'm sorry, but I'm telling you, I sound like that kid who said, apparently I've never been on TV before, and apparently, anyhow, we were there at the hospital, and we came upon a technician that was supposed to draw blood. But unfortunately, the technician didn't know how to use the computer system. So yes, she could draw the blood very fine and easy, like it was something that she was accustomed to doing probably for over 15 to 20 years. But, I won't say the word, they developed a new computer system so that there was a certain amount of pages and applications that she had to go through on the computer that were, in addition to just dealing with the actual patient, which I could tell that she admitted it, that she just wasn't familiar with and didn't know how to use. So she actually had to wait for a coworker or a team member who was efficient both at drawing the blood and doing the technical part of the job, who was obviously a little bit younger than her. And anyhow, that's the way things are going now. So just like in jobs, whereas maybe they want to move people along into different positions, or they want people to retire, and they have the technology, and maybe the younger people are more apt at doing certain things than the older people who are maybe 1 to 5 years off of retirement are like, man, I know how to do my job, and I might not necessarily know how to click the screens that you want me to click and use the apps that you want me to use, but I can do the job very well. So what you can do is you can get a younger person to do that stuff and let me just do my job. But of course, it doesn't really work that way anymore. So basically, with my job, they figured out a way to move me along, even though I wasn't a person who was defiant or resistant into learning new technologies. As a matter of fact, I knew how to use new technologies, but of course you run into the situation where you have hearsay and you have cliques in a job, whereas like they may say you don't mesh well with our team, and we would like to see if there's some way we can move you along and maybe get somebody who might fit our demo a little bit better, our vision a little bit better, or maybe even the demographic of the actual population that we are serving, or whatever it is. But the bottom line is they move me along. But as I have now put a new signature on my email, it says, and actually I even shortened it down, which is even better. It was actually about 2 sentences. I've cut it down to 1, and then I even pulled a word right out of it. But basically, it says, sometimes you don't want to leave somewhere. That's what I had. So sometimes you don't want to leave somewhere until you get to where you're going. I just shortened it today and said, sometimes you don't want to leave until you get to where you're going. And that's what I found out. I was so disgruntled when I left that job. I even wrote a letter to upper management seeing if there was some way that they could bypass the situation of me being sent to another location. I fully let them know that I had just attained the education for the job. So in other words, they said I was doing B job, but they've decided they don't need a B, they need a C. And that's why I was being moved. And I just let them know that, oh, by the way, during the pandemic, I just finished my accreditations or my education that more than qualifies me for the C job. And I'm asking for them to rescind or to change their mind about moving me along, considering the fact that I just moved within 2 minutes of the location that I was working at, and I had actually been traveling for over 27 minutes for the previous 12 years since this actual location opened, which I actually was there for the opening and helped them to move along the business. But unfortunately, they just said, we're moving you along. And that's just the way it is. There's nothing you can do. I contacted my supposed union, and they said, sorry, there's nothing we can do, and they moved me. And I was upset all the way. But to my surprise, and possibly to the person who decided for me to be moved along, to his chagrin, I actually moved into a better position, a much better position. And when I got there, not only did I move into a better position, maybe not necessarily a better location, but actually pretty good location as well. But what happened is there was a person who was doing a certain job that I would actually prefer doing than the one that I was doing at Ivor's place. I almost said it. I actually moved into their position for the better part of this year. And I can tell you that it's been amazing. It's been wonderful. And I think I might have found my calling, even though many people told me that this was my calling to begin with. And sometimes when people tell you something about yourself, when they don't have anything to gain or to lose, and they're just giving you their outsider's opinion, I would tell you, in hindsight, it might make sense to give ear to what they say. Now, I'm not necessarily telling you that people should give you advice and you should just do what they say. I'm saying maybe just give a little ear to it, because you might find that what they have to say may hold some weight. There might be credence to what they're saying to you. So that's my experience, and I can also say to you that it seems, now it isn't official yet, it seems like I'm actually moving on to another position. There was a position that I actually applied for that when I was done with the application and the interview, I didn't even think I got the position. And then lo and behold, even though the person who called me acted like they were on The Price is Right, and they called me and they're like, we thank you for applying to this position, and I would like to let you know, and I'm like, thank you. I would like to let you know that the process is over. And I'm like, thank you. I'm like, man, I didn't get this thing. You're gonna tell me how bad I did. And I'm also calling to let you know that I would like to offer you the position. Totally freaked me out. And when they called me, I was actually dealing with some personal matters at that time. And usually I wouldn't even answer my phone. And that's just my way of doing things. I generally don't answer calls that regard or from the company I work for. I don't take those calls after a certain hour, because I realize that sometimes, and you might know this for yourself, you're just not in the right frame of mind. It's like your business mind or your work mind shuts off, say at 6 o'clock. So you can go beyond maybe a couple hours or whatever it is. And then there's a time when you just become home you, and you're totally different. The way you answer the phone might be different. The way you might answer something might be different, or say something might be different. You're just totally relaxed, and you've totally ripped off your professional self into just home you. Well, that's where I was, and anyhow, I found out that I got the position, and I was overjoyed. Now, it seems like it's coming to fruition, and I'm not even sure if I even want it, because for a while now, I've been just applying for anything and everything, because, as I said before, I was kind of disgruntled into where I was going, or where I end up being. So I said, you know what, let me just apply for every single thing. Last year, I didn't necessarily try to get into the different various positions that were available. But, and then basically what I did by not doing that is I limited myself, and that's how they were able to shove me along, because I wasn't applying out anywhere to do anything else. And that usually comes when you get too comfortable. And becoming comfortable is good, because you should be comfortable in who you are and what you're doing, but you shouldn't become so comfortable that you're willing to, say, stay in a position for years after year after year, where you can do the job with your eyes closed and half of your brain. And speaking of that, I did a job one time at a factory. I was hooked up by my uncle at a position, and it was a company. I think it was called Hayes Dana. It was out in Pickering, anyhow, or Ajax, or one of those places. But basically, it was doing car filters. I was basically just pulling them off. I can't stop saying this word basically, but I was basically ripping them off, checking them for quality, and moving them on into a packaging area for them to be shipped off to the various companies. And what happened for me was just doing this job. Maybe after about 10 minutes, it's like my brain said, okay, so I'm having a full functional brain, carrying on conversations with coworkers. I'm looking and inspecting the product, and I'm properly taking it off the assembly line, and so on and so forth. But what happened was my brain would literally shut off half or more than half. It's like, listen, this is me talking to my inside of my brain here, so get it. So I'm here, I'm ripping off the filters, and everything's great. And then it's like myself said to myself, buddy, you are a deep, somewhat critical thinker in life generally. And what you are doing right now does not require all of your brain function to be actually functional at this present time. So we're going to shut off about 80% of you just so that we can conserve energy, or just because we're so bored. So I would mess up the simplest tasks because the job was so thoughtless. Sorry, there's some noise in the background. But basically, again, I think this podcast is going to be called Basically, I believe. I think I've said the word about 7 times. So I realized that I can't do jobs like that. I can't do jobs that I don't have to fully think. There's no critical thinking involved. There's no problem solving involved. There's no teamwork or collaboration involved. It's just me doing some physical, minimal task that I'm getting paid for, and obviously not very well. And I realized a long time ago that that's not the type of job that I need to be doing. So anyhow, fast forward, I am now moving into a better position that is actually, it's a pilot project that could go really well or horribly wrong. But there's an opportunity, and that's what I'm looking at as an opportunity. I will treat this opportunity as a new avenue, a new door, a new way for me to go down, that I'll be able to use my entire brain, and maybe more than I have in capacity, but I'm going to do my best, and hopefully it will be rewarding. And basically, I'm just saying all of this to say that just because you're going somewhere that you didn't think you were supposed to be going doesn't mean you're not supposed to be going there. So keep your eyes open, keep your options open, and don't, what they say, look a gift horse in the face. I can't remember. But the bottom line is, take your opportunities. Don't sell yourself short. Don't think, of course, more highly of yourself than you should, as the scripture says. Stay humble. Consider and give honor to those people around you, or, hold them in a higher esteem than yourself. Accept a seat at the back of the bus. Now, I know a lot of civil rights type people might say, no, don't do that. Push yourself in the front. No. Take your seat at the back of the bus and let the Lord exalt you forward. Let people see that you are humble. Let people see that you're willing to do things the right way. Not be a pushover. Not be willing to be beaten and you're not defending yourself. And maybe this has nothing to do with what happened with civil rights. So I'm not really putting two together. It just sounds like Rosa Parks on the back of the bus. What I'm saying is, let yourself take the back seat. Let yourself take the humble spot. And then what I've noticed, if you work hard, if you are conscientious about what you're doing, your gifts, your talents will shine through, and you will be exalted. You will be pushed forward to do something that you didn't even think you were going to get the opportunity to do. And that's what happened with me. I found myself in a position that actually calls for more education than I have. But I do have the proper experience. I do have the right character. I do have the right personality. I do have the right lifestyle. There's so many things that I have correct for the position that I was actually promoted to, even though I didn't get the money. But the fact that I was able to do the job possibly even better than the person that does it, and I'm not really saying that just in case that person that ends up listening to this podcast, but basically what I'm saying, I know, is that I was right for this job. So I never wanted to really fully get that certain education, and people are always telling me, yeah, I think you should do this, I think you should do this. It just like I fell into the position. Of course, I had to be ousted out of what I was doing, and I really definitely got too comfortable in what I was doing. But thankfully, God is watching over me, I believe, and He's ordering my steps, even though I may fight, and even though I may decide to go my own direction in my own way. He is showing me a better path, even while I'm kicking and screaming. And if there really is a basis for what I'm saying to you here, is it's very, very humbling to know that I was upset. I mean, I generally don't get upset for long periods of time. If I get upset, it's usually I'm upset for 10 minutes, and then I see God's side or another point of view of the situation. But in this situation, I was upset. I was so mad. I was so disgruntled. I was so disappointed. I felt so betrayed, and I let that show, and I communicated that to people. And luckily, I'm not the sort of person to just sit there and, want to say later on that, I was right and they did this and they did that. I can realize now, and it's so humbling, and it's such a wonderful feeling to know that I can honestly say that, you know what, I was totally wrong. And I probably could have got so much further if I accepted first the decision that was made. I wouldn't have wasted my time writing letters. I would have been able to get my mind right for the opportunity that I was going to, even though I didn't want it. And I probably could have done even a better job than I am currently doing if I had set myself my way right. I wouldn't have given away certain articles of clothing thinking that I would never need those again, which now I do. Sorry for the noise in the background. So what I am saying in essence is, don't get so angry so quickly. Reserve your anger. Reserve your judgment. Reserve your complaints. Trust in God, and He can take you to places that you never dreamed of. And yes, because He loves us, sometimes we will go to places that we don't want to go. We definitely believe at the time we don't want to go. But luckily, God knows best. Anyhow, this is my 2 cents today, keeping it short. Thanking you for joining me today. I'm asking you to drop a line to the podcast to let me know if you're listening. And I want you to know that yes, this is your Probably Right podcast. you are welcome in my house anytime. Listen up, go back, check out some of my other podcasts. Let me know your feelings. Maybe participate in some of the polls that I've put out. They say it's a good idea to engage your listeners, so I'm trying to engage y'all. So engage back. All right. It's a good one. Put it in the can. Take care, y'all.